ever ask yourself the question, how do you inspire? How do you influence? How do you impact our industry? Hello, my name is Chrystofer Benson, and I'm a third-generation hairdresser. From my personal journey of being a stylist, salon owner, educator, competitor, and global artistic director, my intention has always been to make my mark and leave the industry better than the way I found it. I grew up in Utah, and in 2004, I moved to New York to run a global academy for one of the biggest beauty brands in the world, and that's when everything went into overdrive for me. Writing and developing curriculums and methodologies, facilitating education in salons, academies, international trainings, tours, and shows. Creating global campaigns, trends, and advertising. Developing teams and training hairdressers allowed me to focus on supporting stylists and their success. Helping others also fueled my fire, drive, and passion to continue to grow. Cultivating and sharing content and inspiration from the world I see around me.
This is like unbelievable.
Wow, yeah. So I'm really excited about this. So is yours already cut?
So yes, I'm going to show you a couple things though. Here's why. So I have two here. I shared two with you, right?
Yeah.
So more what I want to share with you is actually a technique, okay? A couple techniques. And the reason I'm showing you these is because you can do this at any length. You can do this in long, beautiful long hair, medium length, or something that's shorter length, right? We're going to do something shorter. So, but here's what we're going to do, and this sets up the same on all of it. First is preparing the canvas. I think it's super important. If you are not going to cut it in its natural textured state, then what we need to do is we need to get the canvas ready. And so what you see is we've blow dried it. We have her, so you can see the front of face. Yeah, so you get reference. But this has been blow dried. It's also been flat ironed. And I would suggest this if you're going to do dry cutting, okay? Two reasons. I want to get it back to this when I go to duplicate this again the next time she comes in, and I want ultimate control, okay? So that's the first thing. So whether we're going long or whether we're going short, this is going to start the same way. And what we're going to do is we're going to tip this down, and we're going to take our first section, and it is going to be a triangle section. Now, most of us shy away from wanting to get into that cowlick. I'm going to pick up right where that cowlick is. I'm going to take a 2-inch to 3-inch triangle. So the point goes towards the face, as you can see, and then I'm going to take the base of this out the back, okay? So as I pull that up, what this looks like is the triangle, yeah, and the width in the back. So as we do this, what this is going to allow me to do when we go to cut this is this is going to allow me to work all around the head shape because everything is going to get longer from here, okay? So Vivienne, are you still there, honey?
Yes, I am. I'm watching what you're doing. So let me just come in. So I have my triangle section, right?
So we're going to stand behind the head. We're going to stand behind. And what we're going to do is I want you to think of your fingers that cut as your wheel, okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to hold that in our fingers. We're going to give ourselves a bit of drape, and then I'm going to pull my knuckles together so it fans that out. See how that works? Yeah. Now, what I mean by wheel is all I'm going to do is lay my hands on top of the head. So it's just going to move back and forth this way.
How long is this going to be?
Yeah, I love you. The true student. So right now, I have lengths over 8 inches in this, 9 inches, okay? Now, if you want something that is going to be more commercial, we're gonna go 8, 9 inches in length. If we're gonna go something shorter, spunkier, little funkier, we're gonna go shorter, because remember, when we go short here, everything is gonna get longer. So what you see commercially, I would start to get into 8 or 9 inches. Now, Vivienne, the other thing you can do that I would suggest, take those knuckles, bring them down so we're going to occipital, and that's a good rule of thumb. You want to be longer than that, right? Because once that curves the head, that's going to fall into all that beautiful length.
And
so,
then am I working with the length I have now, or am I going to bring this length up?
We're not even going to touch the length. We're going to do all internal. And then the beautiful part about this is once the internal's done, you can cut it to whatever length you want. It can be long, it can be bobbed, it can be short, it can be super short. So that's why I love this particular thing.
Okay, so then because I'm working on a side parting, I've obviously got more hair on the heavier side than the other side. Is that okay?
Totally fine. Totally fine. Because the way to break this down will be super easy as far as we're going to break this down basically like the way the hair grows on the head. So
okay, so I come here, right? I then come here that it's got to live underneath my occipital bone. Got it. So now I come back up here. I fan my fingers.
Fan your fingers. Now relax and just set it on top of the head. Just rest it there. So now all you're going to do is this is going to rock back and forth. Get the length working out away from your fingers. Get the length working out so the drape's coming forward. There you go. There you go. Now just fan the fingers. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take this side. I'm going to draw this in. So my first cut is going to be at the closest part here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start there and I'm going to work away from myself. So watch. Start. This is what's turning, 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 turning all the way around. I'm going to do that a couple times until this gets to the length that I want. So,
where's her face?
It's so cute. I love you. Right there.
Okay. All right. There's her face. All right. Okay. All right. Do that again. Do that again.
Totally. Let me put a clip so we can see where she is. Honey, you got to be seen.
I know. I know. Really. So I'm gonna watch you again, and then you can watch me. Okay. I don't want to screw this up.
So good. All right. So I draw my triangle.
Yeah.
Up.
Yeah.
Straight. My knuckles, and I simply turn my wrist. Okay. So now the scissors come in. So instead of me having to move this all over, this is what I mean. This is going to be the one that moves. So I'm going to start right here. First one is for length. Now I'm using a 6.5 inch shear too, Vivienne. So I'm going in pretty deep, but what I'm not doing is I'm not cutting chunks, right? I'm going in very parallel to the hair so that what it's going to do is take deep point cuts and take the heaviness out of it, but still leave me a soft length. So when we pull that up, it gets much softer, but there's not a hard line in this. So that's the guide. Yeah.
Got it. All right. So now I've changed to longer scissors. I'm going to come towards me this way, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Not over that way. I've got to come towards me here. My comb is here. I've brought it forward, and now I'm coming in this way. And you said I'm taking length. I must point in this way, not in diagonal.
Exactly. Soft point cuts all the way around.
Do you do razor cutting?
I do.
Okay. I was going to ask you, what do you see as the difference in doing this versus just going in with your razor?
So I think for me, what I find is I can cut this right to the stub because it's dry.
Now, why would you not just do it up here like this?
Do it like that as well. I would just put more of a fan on it. Yep. Yep.
All right. So now I've gone in once.
So Vivienne, here's the other reason. After doing the academy in New York, we would get thousands of people a year through there, right? And so when I started teaching this technique, what I find is when people start to go up and they don't have something to work off, meaning like how you're leaning on the head a little bit, they start to get sloppy. So what I tried to do was get them to lock fingers, and then you can move that around. So if you're moving it to the side of the head like that, or if you're pulling it up, you still have those fingers locked to do the same principle. You got it. All right. So now.
All right. So so now if I But once I let this go, then I lose my triangle. Good luck finding that again, right?
Yeah, watch. Here's
I'm
the best
screwed.
part. Let it go. Now, let's take an axis overhead. We're going to take half head, pull this forward. So pull all that forward. Doesn't matter the length.
You mean from the back of the ears? I'm getting rid of it, or the front of the ears?
The front, and we're going to start working in the back. So get everything from high point to ear, high point to ear, all that pulled forward, and then we're going to work with the back area.
So from the back of the ear, and the front, all out of the way.
Just out of the way. And then you know what, Viv, instead of twisting it, maybe just pull it forward, because you're going to end up needing to cut that. And what we don't want to do
is have a pattern. You don't want a pattern.
Exactly.
Smack the bottom way, don't you?
I probably learned that from you or Nicholas back in the day of Chrystofer, think about what you're doing to the strands of the hair as you're working through stuff. And then you kind of go, oh yeah, let's not work against ourselves.
All right. So we're working on the back now.
So here's the thing. Because we've set the triangle on top of the head, whatever you pull up here is going to be your guide because it's the shortest point.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do now, Vivienne. We're going to take center section and we're going to do pie sections. Boom, 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 till we are to the side. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take about a 1/2 inch, no bigger, and if it was thicker hair, we're going to take less of that. We're going to take the fine tooth of the comb. That's going to draw straight out, away from the head, like parallel to the floor.
Yeah, center back.
Straight back. Exactly. Now, here's where this technique changes. So you have your guide. You see your guide, right? There it is.
Yeah.
Now, traditionally, we cut over our fingers here. What I want you to do today is I want you to cut where the tension is here. So watch. A couple things are going to happen. I'm going to put my scissors in. I'm going to open and close, open and close. I'm going to use this part of my scissor here. The other thing that's going to happen is I'm going to lift my elbow up so that this gets out of the way and I don't cut my fingers. So watch. Here's the guide. Everybody sees the guide. It's going to slip behind my finger. As soon as it slips behind my finger here, where the tension is, I'm going to insert the scissors. Open, close, open, close, open, close, all the way out in whatever length it is. Okay? Let's do it again. So we take a slim section. We take a 1/2 inch off the center, working to the left. We're going to draw that out parallel to the floor. I'm using the fine tooth. There's the guide. Okay? The guide is going to slip past my fingers. As soon as that slips, I'm going to insert the scissors and I'm going to start working that away. Elbow comes up so that the fingers are slipping, the scissors are slipping underneath it. A couple things we're not doing. We're not slide cutting because we don't want to slide cut on dry hair unless you want to get rid of your clients.
Yeah. Okay. So then if I'm coming through here, that's not how my hand is. I've got to be this way, you're saying, right? And then I'm going to come through here.
Vivienne, are you left-handed or right-handed?
I'm right-handed.
So stand. Let's turn your mannequin. There you go. Now come to the back. Pull it this way to you. Okay. Either finger. Yep. There you. That's getting. So body position. See that now. Feel the difference. So you're easily going to work through that. Where the other way you're almost wanting to cut into it. Yep. Now elbows up. Elbow up on your left. There you go. And that'll walk it right out. That'll keep it parallel. That's definitely up. So good. Yeah. So what the elbows are going to do is it's going to keep you, because naturally if we have our scissors coming towards fingers, we're going to want to pull away. So it will help to keep that so that it keeps working right into that. So we're
okay. So hold on. So I'm coming straight out of the head. When I'm looking at my shoulders here, everything is going to be coming straight.
So
or am I working around the head?
So we're going to travel. So now I'm going to either shift feet, or I'm going to shift client. Okay, so you don't want it to be a stationary. We want it to be a traveling. So now each section, I'm going to take a little bit of the previous, but it's going to go and live where it's being pulled from parallel to floor. So by the time we get to the side, Vivienne, we're going to be pulling directly straight out from the side this way.
So if we were to look at this as an aerial view, this is round.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
And then the length.
Okay. All right. So then we're pivoting around. So we're not over directing the hair towards the center. Where
Everything. And I think that's a great question. If we wanted to maintain, weight or length, we could definitely start to direct that back. But this way is going to get maximum round, and it's also going to be able to create that beautiful hourglass shape, is the way I like to describe this. Beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously mine is quite long. And then the other big thing too about this obviously is just taking those moments to read and look at how the hair is living, isn't it?
Exactly. But I love that we're working on blonde. So the thing I love about this is then you can start to see if there's any choppiness. Exactly. Now pull this up, out, all the way up.
Would you cross check this?
Yep, but point cut it. I would point cut that off. Yep, point cut that off. And the reason I point cut it is because we put all that internal movement as opposed to cutting straight across in a heart, then you're going to put lines in it. Yeah, see, now look at it. There you go.
Is that okay?
No, it looks great. You don't see lines of demarcation. It has a beautiful flow. And then then at the bottom, we can do comb control and take length if we just want to trim. Or if we want to cut it bob length, you can cut it into bob length because you have all that movement internally throughout this whole thing. So for me, that's why I like to teach technique. Yes, we're going to get to a haircut, but the thing I love about this is yours is really more of a commercial idea of what I would be doing probably most of the time on guests. Mine is like a shorter version of something like that. And then if I did the same thing, if I do that same technique, but I want to start taking more of this off, then I'm going to take this entire until we start to peel the length completely down. So it's the same technique, but I'm just pulling the scissors different to snug this all in. So what I'm saying by this is this technique gives a ton of variety. It's how we're applying it and to which guests. So now look at the difference. And now we have something that's really tight, snug, but has all that movement internally, the same as yours on a shorter version.
Yeah, mine's got a rock and roll vibe to it.
Exactly. And the other thing, it doesn't have to have a rock and roll vibe. You could almost do this a soft blowout, a round brush through this to where it gives it beautiful movement. The thing about that I love is this came from my clients really asking, Chris, I want something new, I want something different, but I don't want to lose all my length. And how do we create that? And so a lot of it too was their styles weren't lasting because the hair had to travel all that way. So now having like invisible dry seamless layers inside gives them the opportunity to still have it look length at whatever it is. Like yours still hasn't lost any length, but the movement inside is completely different.
Yeah.
Whereas mine now we've started to take this off, keep it more of a shorter vibe, but it still has that seamless, beautiful end result, which I think is important.
Yeah.
I don't want to do techniques that are not going to look sophisticated in the end result. Like I love texture, I love movement. I'm Sassoon based trained, so I love lines and strength.
Yes.
But I finding that balance between those two of how do we get a strong line, but internally it's going to give them diversity as well. And so I like both applications, and I think it's just applying where that's going to be the best end result. But I think first off, great job.
Thank you. So before we go into the next part, let's just summarize this for our friends. We did a triangle, and obviously the depth of the triangle is going to determine the depth of the layering you're going to have in there, because everything else can get over directed from that triangle, right? Then from cutting that triangle, fanning and breaking into it, and creating that softness, and then doing the reality check to make sure it lives underneath the occipital bone. And then from there, standing in the right place. So that meant you had to stand on the same side the whole time, and then connecting it underneath as opposed to on top. And then just basically just gently grazing out, sliding out, not sliding actually, because you said chipping out.
Texture sheet.
Yeah.
Each time the scissors hit is going to add texture. I like, you use analogies, and I've learned some of those beautiful things from, how you guys put things in the industry. This is what I'd say. We've all seen a sewing machine. A sewing machine has a rhythm, right?
Yes.
Have a rhythm. So what I would say is when we're working through the dry cutting, think of a rhythm, think of a consistency so that it's not like 1, 2, 3, and then the next one is 7, right? Find a beautiful soft rhythm that is the same rhythm. And so then what ends up happening is you have a beautiful rhythm that goes through the hair where you can get an insane texture in shorter or longer like what you have. But then when it wants to lay down, it doesn't lay down and look choppy. It doesn't lay down and look like it's unsophisticated. It looks like there's been technique because there has been. But it's a technique that then still creates softness. Now, after that, if we wanted to go in and start cutting, strength to that, boom.
Yes, we could do
now
it.
you have strong bobs, but now it's a bob that still has movement, right?
I love that.
And that's why I say I think teaching the technique gives people the versatility of where do you want to go with this. So
before we go into the front, I want to bring in our guest, Madeleine, who is here.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi.
So I know you have a question for Chris, and I think it's related to hair cutting techniques, but please go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just wondering if there's a client that has had the same haircut for a while and you want to try something different on them, how do you bring that up or suggest a new style, like something, I don't know, kind of unique, like you're cutting right now, if they're not comfortable with it or something like that?
So I go about this a couple ways. Like for me, we are the professionals. So I probably have a little different approach than the guest is always right. For me, it's a partnership. And so I set this up in the beginning, in the very first time they meet me, that, I don't own your hair, but what I want to do is partner with you in your hair. So it's important that if we commit to doing something, you're going to commit to how that goes on at home as well, right? So the thing is even if they're not getting it done that day, I'm still always planting seeds, whether it's color, whether it's cutting, whether it's, maybe next time we just want to leave this just a little bit longer, play with that this time, see if that works for you. And then the other thing I do is I want to do this on you today. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this a little bit longer. I want to give this so that it swings a little bit different. If you hate it, come and see me after a week and I'll cut it off, right? Get you out. The thing I found is if we don't suggest it, they're never going to ask. What happens is the first time and the fourth time after you have a guest, it's proven that that's when we lose them. The first time it just didn't work. The fourth time we never suggested anything other than the first time. So it's our job. Think about, and this is what I always equate. Think about going to a doctor. You wouldn't go in and go, doctor, here's what I want. You would go to the doctor and go, here is my symptoms of what is not happening. I want you to consider yourself the doctor. Take ownership of your profession and kindly, obviously, but I think we have to be the authority and go, this is what I'm suggesting. Here's why. Here's what's going to benefit you. And if it's things like, I want to create a signature piece, give them an out. Because and what I'll be honest with you, Madeline, is 9 times out of 10, they end up loving it. But if I had that one that didn't, all those good experiences that they had, they're hung up on the one. Give them an out, and then I think that then they don't feel trapped, but they're open to trying something different.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much.
Totally.
Thank you so much for your question. And are you enjoying this technique?
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait to use it. It looks amazing.
It does look fun. It does. Yeah. So what do you think is going to be the next step? Let's play a guessing game here with Chris.
I would say, well, the back is already texturized. Probably even it up with the front and add some texture to there so that doesn't lay flat or anything. So
is Madeleine correct?
Madeline, you can be teaching this.
I don't know if I do as good as you are doing, but
Time, have goals. You got this. You got this. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to work right along the parietal ridge. And so the way I find this on heads or mannequins is where the comb's going to rock, and it just has that curvature. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that along the side and top, and we're just going to push that rest of that out of the way. So all we're going to work with is this small area on the side that we haven't cut yet, okay? And again, Vivienne's going to have longer, I have shorter. Doesn't matter. We're going to pick up from wherever the length is that we're going to be working, and we're going to start working from there. So through the sides, we have the least amount of hair. So what I'm going to do is start right where we left off, which is square straight out from the head shape, and also straight over the ears so you can have reference, okay? So as we pull this, there's the guide. We're going to draw that out. I'm going to take just tiny, tiny bits. We're going to take our next section. Draw that. Now, a couple things here. If we want to maintain the length around the face, we are going to draw this back section by section to a stationary guide at the high point of the ear, just over the ear, okay? If we want a really active movement, we're going to take a traveling guide, and we're going to continue working straight out, straight out, straight out, and moving our feet or moving our guest as we move through that, okay? Stationary to the ear, pulling everything back is going to maintain length, and that's what I'm going to do with this particular look. So I take my next section. I plant my feet. I draw this back. I find my guide. There's the guide. I can see a little bit of length. We're going to open and close, open and close. Find a nice rhythm in the way we execute, okay? You can see there's length. Draw back, open and close, open and close. And if I had long length like what Vivienne does on her mannequin, I would just continue working that all the way until I run out of that length. Then I would go and trim my outer perimeter. I know in beauty school they teach us the idea of cut your baseline and then cut your internal. What I think is great, we have to learn to walk before we run. However, I think that once that baseline is cut, unless we're cutting it shorter, it's cut. So this is just another way to go and execute a beautiful layering technique for guests that want something different but don't want to lose tons. Yeah, and you can see how this is taken right in there. And again, if I want to maintain a little bit shorter, I'm just going to take open and close until I find the length that fits for my guest.
So because mine is a lot longer, Chris, I don't think I need to over-direct it as much. Would you agree with that?
Exactly. I think you can. Oh, look at that, Vivi. Look at it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. Look at the softness, but see the movement in there. I think that looks fantastic.
And I'm always going back to this as my reference. So a word of advice, when one is going over the ear, obviously one either wants to drop it down if one is concerned about the ear, if she's got jug handles for ears, or, you know, a taxi cab with both doors wide open, right? If she's one of those ladies, you definitely have to be able to allow for the ear, don't you? Yeah.
I'm dead. I love you. So good. Yes, I agree on all those accounts.
Okay, so then I've gone through the beard.
Analogies, but I agree on all those accounts. That's perfect. All right, so you ready for the front top? So here we go.
I haven't done the other side yet. Should I do the other side?
Let's do the other side, and then we'll do the top.
So we're going to the parietal, correct?
Right, we're going to do the exact same thing, opposite sides.
All right. So then let's see if we're going to match the other side. So let's just see if we have our Nicholas French, who can come back in and give his 2 cents worth on what we're doing here. Hi, Nick.
Hello, hi. How are you doing?
Nick, where's your mannequin? You should have a mannequin. You should be doing this with us. That would be amazing.
Okay, so I already realized a problem here, right? Because on this side, it was easy peasy, elbows up, sliding out.
Yep.
This side, because I'm not ambidextrous, this side, I go back to my triangle, I pull this out. So now...
Move your body around the front, Vivienne.
So I can do, this is a yoga position that is called pretzel.
No.
I'm going to stand at the front.
There you go. You're on the front. So
Yeah.
here.
All right, and I'm going to do it this way. All right, so I've got to turn it this way so everyone can see. And so again, as one's doing this, you mentioned, Chris, obviously the over directing if you want to keep a longer front.
Correct.
And then if you don't, then you'll just kind of go on through and blah, 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 blah. Is it easier when it's shorter, or is it easier to do this as a longer hairstyle?
I think you're probably going to find these first few times, because you're being super thoughtful about how you're pulling, it's probably a lot of work with the length. What I think you'll find is, as you do the technique a few times, is it becomes a lot easier, because once you lock fingers, you're going to have that relax a little bit. So, and I don't mean relaxing it sloppy. What I mean is relax in holding it so hard, tighten. Yeah.
Oh, you mean I'm a bit up? You know, sometimes people say to me, "Viv, loosen up. You've got to pull up your bum or up your arse," as one would say. Nick, I do sometimes, don't I, darling? I pull up my arse.
I mean, two good points. two good points you're talking about.
He's never retrieved it, by the way.
That's crazy.
Go on, Nick. What were you going to say?
It's an outrage. That's what it is. An outrage.
Am I a bad student?
I don't know. You remember I taught you that haircut and you cut your finger off. That was good. Yeah. But two good points. So, Chris, it's like, it's a journey of emotion, with that kind of hair cutting, isn't it?
It's true.
And real. And if you're angry, you get angry hair. If you're sort of happy, you get happy hair. So you got to try and find it in the middle somewhere,
I think that's so well said.
Yeah. Because that's true, though, isn't it? Because I remember
it's so true.
Seeing you once in a classroom, and that rhythm is very, very important, and where you stand, especially, and that's the tricky bit to really teach, isn't it? Where people stand, and it's great. Looks good, Vivienne.
Well, it's coming along. So what do we do now with the top part, Chris?
Okay, so Vivienne, the only part that we haven't cut is from the top. Between parietal and parietal, everything that comes forward in this little area. So here's what I want to think about. The point of the triangle is going to be in that, right? So what I want to do is we're going to start off to the side, and we're going to work pie section until that's exactly straight on, pie section. So let's start on the side. Let's push that out of the way. There's her face. And what I want to do is I'm going to pick up right along where that parietal is, and we're going to drop what comes down because we've already cut that. So that's my guide. We're going to move that out of the way, open and close. I'm going to take a pie section. I'm going to move that out of the way. I'm going to pick that up. So the mechanics, and I don't want you to become mechanical, guide, slips, open and close, all the way down. What I mean is mechanical. Pick it up, push it away, pick it up, draw it out, make your cut. If you work and you get a rhythm, you can work very efficiently through stuff like this, and it doesn't take a long time. Where I think stuff goes awry in the industry is people get a little too fast, a little too rambunctious, and like they've started off really well, super diligent, and then we get to the end and it's like, oh my God, my next client's here. Well, let me start going fast. Let me start taking big sections, and then the sophistication goes out the window. But look at this. This is a mannequin. I want to point this out. Look at the beauty in this. Simple stuff. And all it was peeling away what wasn't working. Remember what Nicholas was saying earlier, and Vivienne and I were talking about. It's not always just what we're taking. It's also what we're leaving behind. If I want to open that up a little bit more, I'm going to open that up. If I want to show her eye. But what is staying the same is the technique. Okay, so we have that same rhythm and that same movement of what's going on. Yeah.
So I'm going to be then I don't have a whole lot of hair to cut. Let me just show you where mine is. I don't have a whole lot to cut here because of the length that my crown is at.
Yep.
Which then begs the question that in mapping this out, I'm a big proponent of I suppose I could over direct it forward and take more off.
Yep, direct it there.
So that's important, guys. If I lift it up here, I'm taking off hardly anything. If I over direct it forwards and then swing that around like that, I can take more hair away. But I'm a big proponent of having a plan and working the plan. And obviously with something like this, you've really got to know that she's going to end up being soft, or you're putting an architectural shape in afterwards, so that you don't have to go back into your haircut again. Because I agree with you. I think the mechanics of working through a hairstyle are really important, and that's where you get your rhythm. But it's in stopping where you see the magic. And if you are only looking at the line between your fingers, then that's all you see. But when you stop and just take those moments to look at the shape and the balance and the proportion, then I think it becomes a much more beautiful experience. So I'm quite long in the front. Is this okay?
It's good, because realize as soon as you pull that where it's going to go, it's going to match up those sides. And here's the other thing is you don't want everything being, when this moves and you take those clips out, this is going to have a beautiful swing back and forth. That's the thing I find different cutting with the scissors and putting the texture in as opposed to cutting with the razor. Razor has great movement, and I love cutting with the razor. Cutting it dry, it has that almost individuality to it, and it allows you to see that swing, almost that instant gratification. So if you pop that other clip out and then just swing her, but watch all the internal movement now. I know you haven't cut all that, but
yeah. So this you said pie-shaped section pivoting. I pivoted around, so I'm going to pivot over to here,
and
like
that's
this.
Straight off again, same exactly.
So my guideline is always coming from the original triangle here. That length, when it's connected into here, I've got it in my hand. I might as well just cut it off, huh?
You got.
I mean, why waste time? She doesn't mind. She's got to go somewhere and find the rest of her body.
There you go. Yeah.
So now technically that doesn't connect to the underneath.
Exactly. And
said the blind man.
It's not some massive, like, crazy disconnection back in the, late 90s and early 2000s. It's a sophisticated disconnection. And so I don't even like to use the word disconnection, because I think if you've had a bad experience with disconnection, you're not going near it. But yes, to your point, it does not connect. And the whole reason it doesn't connect is so you have that swing from top to bottom. And it does move different. So turn that around. Give her a little like swing, Vivienne. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. And here's the thing. You don't see any choppiness.
No, you don't. And on a blonde shows scissor mark very, very quickly.
Exactly. That's what I call success. Hey, if you're doing that from New York and I'm here in Utah, we're doing pretty good if we can get that.
Yes. Yeah.
I want to know how to cut hair, so that always helps.
Yeah, that's cool. So now what would you recommend, that I put in an architectural line or leave her very soft and shattered?
I'd leave her soft and shattered.
You'd leave her soft and shattered. All right.
Stunning. And look how it's around the face. Yeah.
Yeah, that is very, very cool.
I think if you have hair that's starting to fall in place, now think of your clients, that could be a beautiful wave as well. And I think that the style holds immensely. I want to point out something you said too, balance, proportion, and shape. Just the same thing in haircutting is, these are principles that I learned clear back from Nicholas when we started playing into avant-garde styling. And I think that that's really important. This should ring true in everything we do. Look at that. Look at you. Look at you. No, I think it's beautiful. Now, Vivienne, if you want to cut like align something that's a little cleaner on the bottom, you can do that. You still cut it with like comb control, soft point cuts just to strengthen it. But I honestly don't think you need to do that either. I think the shape and everything looks great.
Yeah, I think she looks heavy just in here.
Yeah.
That part. And when I'm looking at that, I'm asking myself, if I raise that up a bit and diffuse that, is that more interesting versus it living there?
That's what I love, is now you're taking the technique and thinking about where you can evolve it. That's perfect. That's exactly.
Yeah. So just sort of slither that through. So I think that's a really lovely, lovely technique. And thank you so much for sharing. And okay, so what would you do for color with this? Because you are the king of color. What would you do in the color department?
I'll tell you, where I think color is going? I think color is going to be pocketed. I don't think we're going to see raging all over. I think you're always going to have an all over blonde. I think you're always going to have a raging, full head of Vivids. But I think that where we're going to see a lot more color going is focused particular areas and or what I consider pocketed color. Flashes of color is what I remember being called back in the day. Think of shine lines, where it's super prevalent. You can see it. I love it. Look at the movement. She looks amazing. And you're bouncing your hair too. I love it. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Well done.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that great technique. It was wonderful.